All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great NBA opening week. This is the second of 3 shows tonight. For those of you guys who missed it earlier, we hit 2 more of the League Pass games from Wednesday night's slate. We hit the Zion Williamson return to the New Orleans Pelicans as they went into Memphis and beat the Grizzlies. And then we also hit the Cavs-Nets game where Donovan Mitchell hit the game winner. So if you're looking for those, you can find them a little bit further back on the feed. This video, we're hitting Bucks-Sixers from the perspective of both teams and that officiating fiasco in the fourth quarter. And then come back to the feeds later tonight. We're going to have a breakdown of Lakers-Suns as well. You guys know the drill before we get started. This is our brand new YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to me if you guys would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button as we try to get this channel off the ground. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. Follow me on social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. That's where I'm posting video content, film breakdowns, and show announcements throughout the year. And last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments. We're going to be hitting them at the tail end of shows throughout the season as well. All right, let's talk some basketball. So, Damian Lillard came into camp, I thought, a little bit out of shape. He was missing a lot of his pull-up jump shots short on the front of the rim in preseason. Kind of did that again tonight until the end. I mean, even that 3 he hit out of pick and roll in the second quarter, he left short on the front of the rim, but it bounced in. And, it's hard to explain. All of you guys who are heavy-duty ball handlers, pull-up shooters at whatever respective level you play, that ebb and flow between like when you're really in a groove and you're in basketball shape and you do all the things that you do and you're getting good lift and you have a specific spot where you make shots. Usually it's off the back of the rim, or some people primarily swish when they're locked in, right? But then like when you have an injury or you go on vacation and you come back and you're just not quite the type of in rhythm player that you're accustomed to being. And I think there's going to be a little bit of a process there that's magnified by the fact that, he's trying to figure out where he fits in this Bucks team. And I mean, you could really see it in that first quarter and then again in that third quarter. Not enough Dame, way too much Giannis, way too much other guys getting involved. And it's one of those things where at the end of the day, especially when they get into half-court situations, I think the more they kind of simplify their offensive hierarchy and lean on Damian Lillard, the better. Giannis is at his best when he's in transition. That was one of the stories of this game, is that he really struggled with Joel Embiid's rim protection in the half-court. But then whenever he got out in transition, good things happen. And it's one of those things where like you almost want to see this team slot in a way where Dame kind of functions as the primary ball handler. Giannis operates as basically a ball screen fulcrum, and then obviously a mismatch attacker whenever he has an opportunity, or when Dame's off the floor, you can go back into your traditional kind of Giannis spearheaded offense, right? And then from there, you want guys playing off the ball, and you want to lean into that action as much as possible. No different than the way the Nuggets lean into Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic as much as possible. Not only do you want to do that in the big picture, but it also will help you, the more you do it, to build chemistry between those two. And I mean, it was one of those things where you can kind of tell in that second quarter, Dame started to get it going. Now, Nick Nurse is famously, those of you guys who followed the show for a while, we talk a lot about Nick Nurse and his overly aggressive defensive approach. Tons of ball pressure, tons of help. He's gapping. He's in passing lanes. He's trying to force your primary ball handlers to get rid of the basketball. And one of the things that the Bucks did to counter that in that second quarter was just set the ball screen way further out, like 35 feet, 40 feet away from the basket. It's kind of like the inverse of that concept we were talking about with Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic yesterday. Remember, I talked about how the closer you get to the rim, your angles are off. Imagine the defender is like a square, and imagine the basket over here, and your point is right here with the square, right? The closer you are to the basket, your driving lanes get kind of flattened out to the side, right? Whereas when you're further away from the basket, there's kind of like more angles for you to go around a player, right? And that's the thing. Damian Lillard, when he beats somebody off the dribble 35 feet from the basket, it doesn't matter how far you're playing off a shooter or anything like that. Everything is so spaced out at that point that it just gives you that much more time to get ahead of steam, to make decisions based on how help defenders are reacting. And he really got going downhill. And again, like even when he was missing his pull-up three-point shot in preseason and missing them early in this game, he was getting guarded as though he was making those shots, right? And so the perfect counter to that is to try to get going downhill. He definitely got going towards the rim in that second quarter, did hit a pull-up three, short off the front of the rim, but somehow still went in that second quarter run, right? So like gets going, starts to get into the flow. Then in that third quarter, it kind of felt like Dame kind of got uninvolved from the offense again. And that's one of those things that I'd like to see in the big picture, is them just leaning more on Dame. Now, down the stretch of that game, it was a steady diet of Dame, and that's exactly what it should be more frequently throughout the game. I don't think it's a coincidence that the big Bucks runs were that second quarter run, Dame running the offense, and that late fourth quarter run, Dame running the offense. He's by far your best offensive player. He's the guy. It's the reason why you made that trade. You didn't make that trade to have him functionally operate as Drew Holiday on the offensive end of the floor. You brought him in because he's one of the best half-court shot creators in the NBA, in the history of the NBA, and you need to lean on that more. And you saw some of the upside there, right? Like they ran a horn set down the stretch. It was the play. I want to say it was the one after the kind of officiating fiasco before he got when he got the 3 free throws. It was after that. They run a horn set. Giannis sets the screen. PJ Tucker's guarding Giannis. Why? Because PJ Tucker's a fire hydrant that can kind of contain Giannis's bully ball a little bit, right? So on the play, Damian Lillard comes off the screen and Giannis rolls hard to the front of the rim. But those of you guys who want to see a video of this play, I put it on my Twitter feed, talking about PJ Tucker staying glued to the roller. Now, again, Giannis brings real roll gravity to these situations. So, again, we talked about the 2 different ways you can guard it, right? If you blitz Dame, you give the ability for Giannis to work downhill in a 4-on-3. If you don't blitz Dame, what's going to happen? If Giannis rolls downhill and PJ Tucker stays with Giannis and Kelly Oubre's in a trail position as he's chasing over the top of the screen, Dame's going to be able to get downhill. So in this play, Dame drives down the left lane line. He sees PJ Tucker glued up to Giannis, knows he has an opportunity at the rim. By the time PJ Tucker realizes what's happening and turns to contest, it's way too late, and he lays it up. I want to say it was the very next possession, the ISO 3 against Kelly Oubre. That's that like top tier shot creation, that rescue possession stuff that I always talk about. That's the difference between a 111 offensive rating and a 119 offensive rating. It's usually the 3 or 4 possessions a game, whether it's a late shot clock situation, a late quarter situation, or an end of game situation where the defense is locked in, nothing's open, and you just need your guy to make a shot. And Dame hit a dribble combination step back 3 over Kelly Oubre that was effectively the dagger. And again, like, that's the kind of stuff that you never had with this team in the past. Now, this was a really ugly game for the Bucks. For the most part, Giannis struggled mightily with Joel Embiid's rim protection. Again, like that's the thing with Giannis right now, and this is why you had to make the Dame trade. I talked a lot about after the Dame trade how it was an indicator of self-awareness for the Bucks front office. Understanding that here we are in the year 2023, and kind of like AD in the bubble in 2020, that Giannis playoff run in 2021 with free throw shooting kind of looks like it was a little bit of a fluke, right? Since then, his jump shooting has declined, his free throw shooting has declined. Last year, he shot 30% on all field goal attempts outside of the restricted area. Like, Giannis can't shoot outside of the paint. You know, he did make a big hook shot down the stretch of this game where I want to say it was against PJ Tucker, where he kind of bullied his way inside and he made that little push shot in the lane. That's the one I want to see him continue to work on, because that to me should be his over-the-top shot that he goes to. But outside of that one shot, you're not really getting anything at the end of this game from Giannis in the half court in terms of shot creation. He just for what, and you know, it's funny because with Joel Embiid, I don't think Joel Embiid is a top-tier defender. I don't think he's good enough on the perimeter, but his immense physical size kind of uniquely equips him to deal with the guys like Giannis and Nikola Jokic. Like, that's what's wild. Like, no one thinks Joel Embiid's as good a defender as Anthony Davis, but Giannis eats Anthony Davis up, and Nikola Jokic eats Anthony Davis up in a lot of cases because he's just too damn big, right? And the flip side there is, like, Embiid's just physically capable of absorbing those blows and standing his ground. And he gave Giannis a ton of trouble at the rim in this game. That's a game where, you know, if they play the exact same way they played, but Dame's not out there, they lose. Because Dame is what brings that top-tier shot creation to the situation. But, I mean, this is a super encouraging one because it was ugly. The rhythm seemed off for the most part. Dame didn't really even know when he was supposed to be aggressive outside of the end of the game, and he still did Dame shit at the end, and you won. And so that's what's encouraging, because over the course of the season, that continuity will improve. That hierarchy will be simplified. Those guys will know what they're supposed to do on both ends of the floor, and they'll look better. This is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a new basketball team. When you look at guys like Malik Beasley playing a significant role, who, you know, wasn't all that impactful as a shooter tonight, but I thought he was pretty good defensively, of one of his better defensive games that I've seen him play. And obviously Damian Lillard brings an entirely different vibe to this team offensively. So first outing, ugly. Definitely got some fortunate whistles in the fourth quarter, but a win is a win is a win. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at an even bigger basketball win. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. The crown is yours. I want to talk about the Sixers for a second. I legit feel bad for them in this one. You guys know how I feel about officiating. I think pretending there's a conspiracy is a loser mentality. No one's targeting your favorite player. No one's targeting your favorite team. The officials take their job very seriously. Yes, of course, there's bad apples among the officiating community, guys who have taken it personally or that are too invested in them being part of the show. But for the most part, the body of officials do the best they can with the rules that they have to kind of interpret those within the game. And usually when I see people complaining about officiating or specific types of calls, to me, it's more of a big picture issue for the entire league rather than targeting your individual team. That said, it is very possible for one game to randomly go horribly wrong for one team. And I thought this was one of those games. I thought there were several key calls down the stretch of this game that went directly against Philly. That dribble handoff with Kelly Oubre where they called the offensive foul. Like all he did was do a dribble handoff and then keep running in the same direction he had been running. An offensive player is allowed to run. That's just two players running into each other. That's part of the game. When I see calls like that, I'm wondering if that official has ever played a basketball game in his life, right? Down on the other end of the floor, Giannis clearly airballs a hook shot and then catches his own miss. That's a travel. You can't do that. That directly led to the Damian Lillard catch and shoot three on the left wing that changed the lead in the game. I thought the 3-point foul that Damian Lillard got when Kelly Oubre contested him kind of on his left side, that's a bad call. Like that is a foul, grifty bullshit call. The Sixers are not victims here in the big picture, but in any sort of one single game sample size, it's very possible for just a handful of random calls to go against you. And so that would be the silver lining if you're the Sixers, is like you basically had I think they counted that DeAnthony Melton banked in 3 at the buzzer. So you lost by 1. And effectively were within one possession for the most part at the end late, despite getting some rough calls, despite them also dealing with some issues in terms of their offensive organization throughout the game. This is a team that's used to James Harden setting them up for the most part over the course of the season in terms of just offensive organization, right? And you could tell it was kind of similar to the Dame thing. Like Tyrese Maxey was a little too passive early in the game. When he started really looking to be aggressive, that's when the Sixers offense took over. When Embiid looked to be aggressive, that's when the Sixers offense took over. So again, they have some stuff that they're sorting out too. And they had lots of encouraging performances, right? Like Joel Embiid's 3-point shot looks amazing. Tyrese Maxey, still way too damn fast. No one can keep him in front off the dribble. Kelly Oubre brought a lot of athleticism, point of attack defense, and timely 3-point shooting to the table. Even Jaden Springer had a really interesting kind of perimeter defense sequence in that first half. So a lot of encouraging stuff for the Sixers despite unfortunate circumstances. Again, a win is a win is a win. And you could tell that the Sixers kind of got down on themselves as the calls weren't going their way. But at the end of the day, if I'm a Sixers fan or a Sixers player, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at right now because Tyrese looks ready. Joel Embiid outplayed Giannis in this game, I thought, pretty soundly. Again, that ability for Embiid to protect the rim against the freaky athletes in this league is a real weapon. And so there's a lot to be encouraged about for the Sixers. One other note I wanted to hit on the Sixers really quick, a very similar thing to what I was talking about with Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic and the transition battle. So in the half court, and I'll be really curious to see the numbers when cleaning the glass updates in the morning, but when Embiid was at the rim in the half court, he had a ton of success slowing down the Giannis rim pressure and just in general stalling the Milwaukee Bucks half-court offense. But there was a key play late that you guys might remember where Embiid drove left on Brook Lopez and threw up an incredibly difficult kind of like floating bank shot on the left side of the rim against Brook Lopez that he missed. And when he missed, the first thing he did is he looked over at the official and he stopped kind of in his tracks. Meanwhile, Giannis is barreling down the other way for an and one layup, right? And those are the kinds of things that now the Philadelphia 76ers, similar to the Los Angeles Lakers, they're a very good half-court defense, but they suck guarding in transition. And this all comes down to the Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid running the floor thing. And that's why like those kind of like perimeter-based drives where they're slashing to the rim and throwing up difficult layups, both of them could stand to remove that from their game entirely. Because when they do that, neither of them are particularly great at making those kind of foul grifty shots. And when they don't get the call, they're always out of position in transition defense. And for both of those teams, when they're not at the rim, their defense falls to pieces. And so that's just something for them to, for both teams, but specifically we're talking about the Sixers here, to work on that specific element of kind of like catering your shot selection around floor balance and making sure that Embiid's in a position to get back on defense is an important part of them polishing up their transition defense over the course of the season. But entertaining game. Bucks got the win. Again, when I was talking about the officiating, I'm not trying to take away from that. It's part of the deal. It's part of the game. Officiating is a variable. And if you want to make it so that officials cannot determine the outcome of games, you need to outplay the other team with enough margin for that kind of error. So congrats to the Bucks. Both teams, though, a lot of stuff to be encouraged about and a lot of stuff for them both to get better at. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. I'll see you in a couple hours for Lakers Suns.